and you get Samuel L. Jackson doing this. Okay, you can just do it down 5 there.
The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you.
Go, 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 go!
Friends and neighbors, welcome to Cord Killers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so that you, no matter what your preference, can watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on any device you want, even if it's a VHS player. I'm Tom Barrett.
Yeah, man. Let's take it to the next level. I'm Brian Brushwood, and I say you should be able to watch whatever country you want. Or
That's
planet
right.
you want. And in fact, that comes from the BBC on the Graham Norton, I don't know what his show is. But that's, you know what's funny is, the first time I saw that, I'm like, I don't get it. That's just Samuel L. Jackson saying the Ezekiel 25:17 thing. But then it hit me, oh crap, that was from a movie 20 years ago. So it's fairly novel to see him relive it again. And I knew one person would probably enjoy that, and that is our guest today, Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Cheers. I think we should make Sam Jackson just say all of his famous lines. Like we should make him say, "Hold on to your butts," and you know his dialogue to Anakin and the prequels. Like I think it would just whatever. He seems game for it, like rock and roll.
Yeah.
Apparently, his money in the bank as long as you don't call him Morpheus.
Yes, exactly. I think it's always amazing whenever actors kind of, especially Sam Jackson, just kind of seems like how we would want to build our celebrities, right? Like we want them to have sense of humors about themselves and understand why we love their work. And the fact that like he'll go and do that whole monologue and still have it memorized is just so rad.
Yeah, although between you and me, there's zero chance he had that memorized. This was a pre-written bit, and they had the script up on the teleprompter for him to read.
Also, zero chance that Samuel Jackson has not been constructed from artificial intelligence to be our perfect celebrity.
That's true.
Yeah. Good point.
And with
All
that,
around. As usual.
Time for the
with
primary
that,
target.
Yeah, let's go.
Sony Computer Entertainment America President and CEO Sean Layden was doing a lot of talking at E3. It's a video game conference. You would expect Sony to be doing that sort of thing. But one of the things that he told Recode was that, yes, they're still working on their internet-only TV service. The service is on track to come to the U.S. later this year. And he said they probably won't throw the switch on all devices on day one, simply because client management is tricky, although they would like to put it on many devices in the future.
I would bet even money that this doesn't come out this year. There's no way. Like, we've seen this cripple so many before it, and I know that Sony has a great established position. I know that Sony has a lot of connections and a lot of... if anyone could do this, it should be Sony. Still don't believe it's happening this year.
Well,
Justin Robert Young.
what's the difference between it happening and it coming out but sucking and not being what we wanted?
Well, the difference is because it's sucking and not being what we wanted is what everyone else has brought and not even been able to launch, because they're all like, yeah, we've got ESPN and old Batman reruns. And then it's like, oh, wait, we're not launching. We're folding by. Or we have Intel that comes in and like, we want to provide over the top everything you want because we're Intel and we could do this because we're outsiders. And then immediately they're like, oh, wait, the exact reason we can't do this is because we're outsiders. The fact that
to be
Sony...
fair, though, nobody has launched anything, and the only people who've ever even gotten a deal is Dish.
Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about Dish later
hold on.
in the episode.
Explain to me, like I'm five, what this is promising. What is the promise of this Sony product?
The promise is that it would be, and this is a quote here, it will be a revolutionary service to bring to market. I think others have had similar ambitions and trying to go there. We're spending a lot of time and energy to make sure we get the mix just right. This is an over-the-top, internet-based cable offering, basically. There are a lot of content partners, a lot of stakeholders in the market where we want to go. He doesn't actually give the specifics here. But essentially, as it's promised, it's basically if Sony was a cable provider and they provided over the internet to PlayStation people, a completely over-the-top delivery.
So a
content
bundle
delivery
of
service.
effectively right now, since a lot of this stuff is already out there, streaming services for live events and live programming for people that already authenticate through cable. This is a bundle of those authentications.
Well, yes and no. It is that, but it is also you will get cable and you can choose your device, and all you have to have is your internet connection. You don't have to subscribe to cable television. So in other words, I can have Comcast, I can have Time Warner, I can have AT&T internet connection. It doesn't matter. And Sony doesn't have to go and get franchise agreements in individual cities. They just launch it on the internet. And they say, anybody in the U.S. can subscribe. This is what they get. And it comes over the internet. Where I think this gets interesting for Sony, and Brian's right, we're gonna widen this conversation in the secondary target. But where it comes interesting with Sony is they really seem like we're going to make this happen because we want to sell devices, right? When they say, oh, we're not going to launch on all the devices at once, guarantee it's going to be on the PS4, and it's probably going to be on that Sony TV device that we're going to talk about a little later on, and it's probably going to be available on the PS Vita, because that's going to be the advantage here is we're going to launch a streaming television service, and hey, if you buy Sony products, you'll get it.
Right.
But you have to buy in on a certain plus $400 piece of equipment to get in on it.
Yeah, but again, it's the kind of thing, and we've talked about this before. We've argued about whether or not these initiatives are meant to bring in more customers or to serve your existing customers, and whether it's the one or the other, it doesn't matter. The significant thing to cord cutters is that this is an opportunity to get a completely over-the-top pay TV service.
Well, let's move on to the secondary target, because these two today kind of do blend together.
Yeah. So this is we got a Coke and Pepsi situation here, right, Tom?
Yeah, the GM of well, I don't know. Actually, that might not be it at all. The GM of Interactive and Advanced TV, Adam Lowy, at the TV of Tomorrow show in San Francisco said, because remember, Dish has a deal with Disney already. They say they're very close to deals with others to bring an internet-only television service. He says cord cutters, cord nevers, and what we call cord haters, he could have said killers,
I know,
will
right?
be the target audience of the new service. And even more interesting, on this panel was Fox Network's SVP of Distribution Strategy and Development, Sherry Brennan, said that her company would like to sell its networks through all and any of these new services. They're not hesitant to give their service to an internet only. They want to distribute it as far and wide as possible because they want their content to be seen. It's all a matter of the deals. How much money are they going to get for it?
So here's, I read a book recently called Now You Are Less Dumb. And in it, it exposed an idea that the whole book was about cognitive biases that we have and the reason that we see the world and our stupid filters that we see. But one of the concepts that it brought up was pluralistic ignorance. The idea that you yourself could be okay with a thing, but because you know everyone else or you think everyone else is not okay with that thing, you will enforce the norms. And the example I brought up is segregation. It's like, look, black person sits down at your table. You're like, look, man, I don't mind that you're here. It's just that everyone else might be a little bit freaking out about it. And secretly, everyone else is okay with it as well. I feel like we're hitting that kind of critical mass, if I can, in some way diminish the importance of the civil rights movement to a cord cutting show. But my point is that concept. I think we're reaching a level of pluralistic ignorance where increasingly people are realizing that everybody's okay with it, including in many cases the content owners. But just we need to have that crack in the wall so that we can all so that everybody can jump and have the paperwork work.
But you see, your premise is built there on the idea that people weren't okay with an internet streaming video service. The only people who have not been okay with it are the cable companies, and they're still not okay with it.
No,
Go ahead,
no.
Chris.
Well, no, content owners, though, because content owners, remember, part of the complication is that a lot of these agreements say that you are allowed to use these content, through established methods, but they have different rules for mobile, different rules for internet-based.
Oh, yeah,
This is
and
the
they're not
reason
saying that those rules are changing. That's why I don't think what Sherry Brennan's saying here is all that, revolutionary. She's saying, yeah, we want this to happen. We're not against it. We just want the deals. That's always been the case.
Right. And what I'm saying is that everybody wants the deals, only that they're in the first, we are seeing the first wave of people willing to say, let's redo these deals. We're trying to make the deals change. So
but they're not saying that. I guess that's my point. They're not saying let's redo these deals. They're saying we still need a lot of money from you to make it happen. That hasn't changed.
Well, all of these deals kind of have to happen with the idea being, we all know that the boat's hitting the rocks, right? It is currently splintering. We just don't know where everything is going to land. And for the content owners and the networks, the question is, they have a great need for there to be players in the game that they can sell their content to in terms of the internet stuff, which is why I agree with Brian that Sony, even if it sucks and it's not what we want, if it is the Rio Diamond of MP3 players and not the iPod.
The Diamond, Diamond, it was the Rio was the device, and it was from Diamond manufacturers, right?
Yeah. Even
Diamond
if it is
Rio
that.
is what it was. Yeah, that's right.
It is worth it because now there is a marketplace of players, including I would have no doubt eventually, or maybe in short order, the cable companies themselves offering these things that, all right, we get it. Instead of us becoming a dumb pipe, let us be the thing that sells you the internet authentication.
And we've already seen some of that
authentication
because, of
package.
course, this was the over-the-top network was what Intel was promising, and it eventually folded. The project, died and got bought by Verizon, right, Tom?
Yeah, and Verizon in this same panel wouldn't answer a question about what is up. They are starting to go cold feet on the Intel system, on the OnQ system, wondering whether they can actually make it work or not, which is very interesting when you've got AT&T over there buying DirecTV saying, yeah, that'll help us. And Verizon's like, we actually own the technology Intel built, which is probably one of the best ways to do this, but it may not be worth pursuing at this point. And so I really think personally the focus of this debate is the content owners feeling like they can actually say, I'll make a deal in public without pissing off the cable companies or not caring about pissing off the cable companies. The only hesitation on content owners and networks in the past has been, I don't want to ruin my deal with Comcast. I don't want to get kicked off of Comcast, but I need to have leverage over Comcast. And the shifting ground has come to the point where they're like, actually saying we'll go with Sony or saying we'll go with Dish on an internet-only service helps us in our next round of negotiations with the Comcast.
And I guess that's what I'm trying. That's what I was trying to say.
It has become such a seller's market for content.
Yes,
content is gigantic. It is what brought Netflix from a laughing stock. Netflix went from a laughing stock of like, oh look, the Flickster guys, LOL, enjoy your DVD mailing coffin, kiddos, to like the future of all of this is House of Cards.
Yeah.
It was like, boom, now original content is this clarifying clarion call where they can say, hey, maybe we'll go internet only. Maybe we'll sell to everybody. What do you got, Time Warner? What do you got, Comcast? What do you got, DirecTV?
Yeah. All right. Well,
I also want to point out that we all remember that segregation was a battle between racism cutters, racism nevers, and racism haters.
all right.
I think one thing I will totally agree with you on, Brian, is I don't think Sony launches this by the end of this year, because that is the hallmark of all of these services, is they are just way more complicated than anybody wants to admit. Dish will launch this before Sony because Dish actually has deals.
Yes, agreed.
And Dish is all about F&S up, right?
Oh my God,
they're the T-Mobile
They are
of the
about as bomb throwing as major entities get in this field.
Yeah, they got nothing to lose. Hey man, you want to take a moment to thank our boss? Our boss called me the other day, Tom.
All of them at once?
Oh, that's a good point. We do have more than one boss. We two bosses? Do we have two?
Which one called you? Because when you look at it, when you just quickly type in patreon.com/cordkillers, you get a list of all the bosses. And if you can type, it comes up a lot faster, and you see 1,848 bosses are right there.
Yeah, dude. Apparently we got one like in the last 30 minutes because the screen says 1847. It's 1840. Oh, there we go. 1848. We got a new boss. We're the only team who gets more excited that we got another boss today, because that's what's beautiful about Cord Killers. As you know, we try to educate you guys in the best ways to give the middle finger to the cable companies and save yourself a bunch of money. And all we ask is, if you really enjoy it, if you dig our news, then we're independently supported. Why don't you kick a little bit of that back to us and keep us on the air? You know, I got an email from somebody who, unfortunately, I wanted to read his email, but then he started harping and giving specific spoilers on episodes. He was like, "Hey man, why don't you just release Spoiler in Time and Cord Killers at the exact same time? Why do you wait 2 days?" And the answer is, well, you get them both at the same time if you're a patron, and you don't even have to give us you can give us a penny an episode. That's 52 cents a year. That's not even a Coke. If you think we're worth less than a Coke, then by all means, sign up at patreon.com/cordkillers. You'll be on the list. You'll get both of them the moment that they get published.
And let me just say, if you don't want to give the cable companies the middle finger, or if you're like, to me, it's not about saving money, this is still the show for you. This is the show for anybody who wants to be in control of what they want to watch. And that's why Gino McNew is our boss.
I don't like to give the cable companies the middle finger. I like to give them the index finger and then make a ring with my other finger. And then
oh, yeah?
All right.
So, like, it's a we're number one and you're okay.
Well,
exactly.
it's kind of a binary operation. It's like we're one and you're nothing, and there's that.
Exactly. And
so it's like a World Cup score. Got it.
I feel it's 1-0. I feel like now's a good time to move on to signals intelligence, Tom.
If you say so, Brian. Netflix has received a new logo.
What?
Yeah, this is Signals Intelligence is all about streaming news, and frankly, we kind of blew all our streaming news talking about Sony and Dish at the beginning of the show. But a lot of people are really freaked out about this new logo. It's subtle. The website got a makeover. It's a little cleaner too. So you got a slightly transparent top bar and a palette of white and light grays. A logo changed to a simpler version. The updated emblem uses the flat red text. Flat is all in design. Just ask the Apple folks. No embellishments here. We're going simple with Netflix.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean it's probably
good. What's amazing about this redesign is that it is modest. Like, it is like Netflix has all of the power, right? Like, it is the ascendant company. There is no power like future power. In fact, future power is really the only power that matters. Just ask any lame duck president. They are the most powerful person in the world, and nobody will take their call because they will not be in power in 2 years. And Netflix is the ascendant power in creative media. And this redesign seems to be their very tailored, well-meaning, but inoffensive suit. Netflix lets the content do the talking.
They went out and bought a new suit.
You know, and it makes me think back, in the early days of HBO's branding, you had these super gaudy chrome HBO flying through space nonsense and these overhyped up, like, look at us, we have movie level production values. And there's a great mini documentary about how they made the original HBO feature presentation stuff. It seems like, but nowadays it's very, they're an august institution. Same thing. I think I agree 100% that that's what the transformation that Netflix is going through right now.
Where even now, and also this is the first big turn away from the idea that Netflix Online is the red envelope experience for the internet. Now Netflix is not the red envelope.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Yeah, like we're at the point now where, like, oh my God, did you know that Netflix used to, like, mail DVDs as well? It's like they were doing Netflix before it was Netflix.
No, dude, what's even weirder
the red envelope is the blowing into the cartridge of our generation. It is just something that those who come after us will not understand.
How many years ago, Tom, was it that we were mocking Netflix for their decision
Well,
with the Flickster and all, or what?
I don't like to make too much of a big deal, but I was not mocking
I
Netflix
was.
too much
I
about
was.
the Quickster thing because I was like, this was a stupid. I mocked the name Quickster right along with everybody else. I'm not going to deny that, but I was like, this is not going to kill Netflix.
Well-
But yeah, that was only 2.5 years ago.
Well, yeah, and the thing I want to say it was 3 years ago because I thought it was during the summer. And
Might
I
be closer to
actually-
3, yeah.
At the time, I hope I'm going to say this. This is the way I remember it. Somebody will obviously throw my own words back in my stupid face, but I want to say that it was the right decision at the time. But instead, they just very poorly marketed the idea because obviously they were very forward thinking. There's a reason that the name of the company was never DVDs by mail. It was always Netflix because they clearly wanted to make this happen, and clearly the best part of Netflix has always been the streaming content.
October 10th, 2011 is when they decided to kill Quickster.
So it would have been
That
3
was the
years
end
ago.
of the Quickster thing.
Yeah, no, I would say 3 years ago, pretty much right around this time.
But that was what? That was like
And-
weeks.
Yeah,
after
I
they
think it was.
announced,
I think it
right?
was like maybe a little later in July, but pretty much around
Yeah,
this
summer
time.
summer 2011.
Yeah. And now look at them. They're amazing. Let's
all
gear
grown
up.
up. I'll tell you, somebody does point out that this does like further separate them from Redbox, which is a DVD rental service by and large. That Netflix is now the. I mean, I guess it's just like what's amazing about it is that they, for this, it is unremarkable. Netflix is just the thing. It doesn't need to call attention to itself. Doesn't need to be a metaphor. Doesn't need to be a big gaudy logo. It's just Netflix. You heard the name. That's all that matters.
Well, good point. Let's gear up.
So I alluded to this earlier in the episode. PlayStation TV coming to the U.S. and Canada this fall for $99. Or you can pay $139 and get a bundle that includes a DualShock controller. Your current PS3 DualShock controller will work with it, or you can get the bundle to get one to go right with it. The bundle also includes a memory card and the Lego Movie video game, which is a video game based on a movie, based on a toy that was also a bunch of video games.
I will
So-
say this much: that if you and actually that's a really good point. That also it's very much based on the comedy of the video games. If you haven't played the Lego Movie video game, it is one of, in my opinions, I don't know. Somebody will mock me for this, but I would say that in general, any video game based on a movie is complete crap and shovelware, just meant to make money on a name. This one's actually a really fun game. But then again, the Lego franchise has made a lot of money and built a lot of goodwill based on the quality of its video game adaptations of pop cultural stuff. Like
Well, that's probably why it's good, right? Is they can just use that Lego engine that they've repurposed for so many other, other adaptations, right? This is like a more natural adaptation.
Right, absolutely. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that nobody's buying this just so they can get the video game of the Lego Movie.
No, even if you could just pay $99, you're going to get the ability to play PS Vita games, PSP games. You'll get PlayStation Now access, which is Sony's new soon-to-launch service that allows you to stream full games over the internet and play them kind of like Gaikai, which is what they bought to do that, or OnLive, you may be familiar with. They're not playing up the streaming options, and part of this is because they launched it at E3, which is about video games. They don't want to be accused like Microsoft was of losing the plot when you're talking to video game fans. But the Japanese version of the Sony TV, PlayStation TV, has already been out, and it supports Netflix, Hulu Plus, YouTube, Crackle, and Redbox Instant. So this is kind of the opposite of the Amazon Fire TV, where it's like, we're a video streaming box that also plays games. This is, we're a video game box, but we also do video streaming. Do you think
Yes.
that makes a difference?
Oh my gosh, it makes a huge difference. Like we've talked about this before. The biggest problem that I have theoretically with streaming boxes is that I don't want them to be underpowered, right? And the idea that this is something, to me, anything that can play video games, even though technically you're not actually playing video games on this, you're actually streaming it from your more powerful hardware. The fact that it is a game-playing device immediately conveys to me that it's super powered and strong enough to be able to easily handle streams where I'm not waiting forever for a stupid circle or a bar to finish on everything. And in that regard, I think from a branding perspective, it makes a huge difference.
Well, but in terms of branding, it's all about how good the games are, right? If you're going to be a video game device, then you have to play video games really, really well, and you have to have good original titles that,
Well,
for PlayStation,
and that's the beauty is that in this case they're cashing in completely on all the existing titles or
on all the catalog, right?
Most of the catalog of the.
But I guess here's my question: how good? And listen, I'm sure there's a lot of bespectacled boffins that work in the Sony office that have all this mapped out. But how good do they want a $99 box to be a game experience when they currently sell? Well, what is the price of a PS4 these days?
That's the whole point. Is that this
$399.
This is only an extender of that. You cannot buy this and play anything on it without a
PS4.
Right.
Well, no, that's not true.
You can play Vita
upcoming
games on it. Right.
With the PlayStation Now, you'll be able to stream full video games without owning a PS4.
Man, I didn't even think about that. To me, like I read this whole same press release, but to me, all I heard was you could play your PS4 in the other room. I didn't even
because
really
you can
consider,
do that too. You're right.
And to me, that seems like the chief benefit of it. And it's certainly, if you look at the video where they're advertising it, that's very much how they represent it. But you're right. I guess somebody would buy it for that. But
well, and let's tip this on its head, right? Because it is interesting to figure out like what kind of video gamer is going to buy this. Is it more somebody who has a PS3 already or a PS4 already? But then there's the other side of this when you consider if Sony is right that they do launch an internet-only video game service by the end of this year. I'm sorry, internet-only TV service by the end of this year.
Yeah, an over-the-top cable network,
and
basically.
now you have a $99 box that gives you Netflix, that gives you Hulu Plus, that gives you YouTube. One would presume that those all show up, and is a really great video game player because it can do full PlayStation titles streaming, and is one of the only devices that will carry the new Sony internet-only television service so that you can get all of your live sports and all of your cable channels all on this one little $99 box.
But do they want $99 to be the price point on something that competitive, or do they want $400 to be the price point on something that, that they could sell? I mean, I would like to believe that they would want to make a $99 device that is that full featured, but I don't know.
Well, put it this way, Justin. Do you think they launch a Sony internet TV service and not put it on this box?
I mean, that seems dumb, but
called the
these
PlayStation
are not companies
TV.
that we always know to make the right consumer-facing decisions,
okay.
right?
Well, walk me through what is the justification for not putting it on this? Why would you not put it on this?
Because you would want people to spend $400 on hardware, not $100 on hardware.
I don't even see not even Sony making that bad a decision. I don't see.
I hope so.
The premise of the $400 machine is I can play full versions of video games native, and they look a lot better, and they're fully responsive. As great as the PlayStation Now service may end up being, it's never going to be a replacement for having the game running, right next to the bare metal on your device. So I don't think the TV service is the differentiator that sells PS4.
I mean, let me put it this way, Justin. If we were to take a parallel of it, by the logic that you presented, Time Warner should charge us $400 for their DVRs, because wouldn't that be better than charging us $5 a month for a DVD?
Well, that would make sense if Time Warner were in the selling DVR business. I mean, like they're in the content distribution business, so they're in a bit of a different they're in a different proposition. And listen, I'm not saying that I think this is going to happen. I would just wonder for Sony that is a question. If content is king, and you have found that people will follow content, they will spend money to get the content that they want, which wall do you want them to jump over? I would hope that they do the $99 thing, because I think that's where things settle. And maybe they are absolutely, that's where they're gunning for, is they understand that it will be a no-brainer for people to say, yes, I want to buy a $99 device that I can get an over-the-top cable service on.
Real quickly, don't forget this is the Razer Blade model. Sony doesn't want to make the money off the $400 box. They want to sell you video games. And they're going to want to make money off that internet video service as well. And if $99 boxes help spread that farther, then that's the razor blade model as well.
Here's the other thing, too, is the fact that at least some of the games, and who knows which games, again, you are totally correct when you say it all comes down to the back catalog and so on. But if there's a reasonable back catalog of games that are identifiable Sony brands, if you're able to play Uncharted, if you're able to play The Last of Us and all this stuff, even if it's just greatest hits from the last, PS3 generation, you take anyone over 40 years old and say, you can have all of this and it's only $99. They don't need to understand that there's going to be a minor soupy lag because it's being streamed from servers offsite or whatever. Like, all they'll know is that you get a bunch of games, you get a Roku-like experience, you get that new hot cable alternative, and you're in. I feel like $99 is an exceptional price point from a marketing perspective on that regard.
Oh, I think, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's where this, if and when this beautiful revolution that we've all been pining for years does indeed one day occur, which I think we can all agree will probably happen sometime within the next 3 years. $99 for hardware seems like the natural settling point, and has since that was where Apple TV kind of settled.
And I think the fact that they call it PlayStation TV, whereas in Japan it's called the PlayStation Vita.
Really?
I'm sorry, not the PlayStation Vita. It's called the PlayStation
Vita TV.
Vita TV. I think the fact that they got rid of that Vita thing in the U.S. shows where they might be leaning marketing this thing, even though they announced it at E3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. I want to thank everybody who has been asking about the Sword and Laser anthology, picking it up, buying it at World Builders. It is still available in print. It is now available in the Amazon Kindle if you've been waiting for that. And just today, somebody on Twitter spotted that it showed up in the Nook store. Brian.
Yeah, dude, I love the Nook store. I think the Nook is actually better than the Kindle as far as an authoring platform for what that's worth. But I love the Nook. And to me, it's funny how those little spaces that you don't think to look for a thing are what validate it in your mind. Like, for example, somebody sent me a photo of the Scam School book just on the shelf in a library. And in that moment, I was like, I'm a real author. I'm in a library.
I'm in the freaking library. Yeah. So anyway, just reminding folks, if you want some good science fiction and fantasy stories, there's 10 sci-fi, 10 laser for members of the Sword and Laser Book Club audience, available at swordandlaser.com/store.
Hey, real quick, who wrote the introduction to it?
Patrick Rothfuss.
Ah, you're talking about the guy that I taught to eat fire just this past weekend.
Yes, indeed. The very same. And he liked the anthology.
It's good. It's good.
Shall we see
On
what's under
Facebook.
surveillance, sir?
Yes, we shall.
If you think all of this news is about Sony, it's because last week we did Cord Killers after Microsoft made their E3 announcements, and we didn't do it. We did it before Sony made their E3 announcements. But yes, this section is about what you can watch, and Sony announced an original sci-fi series called Powers. It's an adaptation of the graphic novel by Brian Michael Bendis, has elements of police procedurals, sci-fi, and fantasy, follows a pair of detectives investigating people with superhero-like powers. They plan to make the first episode free to anybody who has a PlayStation, as long as you're registered on the PlayStation Network. And then if you pay for PlayStation Plus, you'll get access to the entire run of the series. They also talked about doing more stuff, more TV shows, more movies. Apparently there's a Ratchet and Clank movie scheduled for release to the PlayStation in 2015.
Again, smart move. We can continue to debate whether this is something that will cause people to go across the aisle or whether we'll just stoke the fires of the people who are already invested. For example, in the case of the Ratchet and Clank movie, nobody who has never owned a PlayStation gives a Ratchet's ass about a Ratchet and Clank movie. So it's like in that regard, you're very much just, pleasing your own fan base. However, in the case of the Powers thing, I mean, I'm not going to run out and buy a $400 device just so I can watch it. But I do think it's great that they have originals that I think have more mainstream appeal. And certainly, if you watch the announcement, I believe they had Brian Michael Bendis there to talk about it, and he did a great job of selling the series.
Well, we can all agree that this is a wait and see approach in terms of all these new players that are getting into original content, right? Like, number one, it's not like we can point to, oh, ABC does good television and CBS does not, with very, very few exceptions, like HBO and FX. You know, it's hard for us to put brand loyalty in a network or somebody who cuts checks to say, I always like stuff on this platform. And that has certainly translated even wilder in terms of the online space right now. Whereas Netflix, you can expect a certain kind of quality, and they have made, obviously, as we talked, a reputation based on how awesome the stuff that they commission is. It hasn't been the same for Hulu, hasn't been the same for Crackle. We'll see what Microsoft does, and we'll see what Sony does. But let's hope it's closer to Netflix than it is to, you know, Hulu.
Yeah.
Actually, I've seen a couple of really good originals on Hulu. They just, I don't know if they're not marketed well or what the deal is, but they don't take off. You're right.
Yeah, man. Shall we jump into the front lines?
Well, I was gonna ask one more question.
No, the answer is no.
Okay, the answer is let's jump into the front lines then.
No. The answer is like you're telling me no. So I was shouting that so Zach would not jump.
No, it's not that big of a point. I was just gonna ask the question: do we think these kinds of Xbox exclusive series and PlayStation exclusive series do end up on Netflix and Hulu? Is that the new path of syndication? For
oh, sure. It's just like the path of movies from being in the movie theaters to showing up on HBO. You know, it's like the premium content. You do it where it's got its greatest value, and then you sell off the parts later on, and then whatever's left over, you put on network television or whatever.
But Netflix hasn't sold syndication rights on cable to like House of Cards, right?
Yeah,
not in the United States.
Not in the United States, but they've done that overseas, and they already have made it available on
only in markets where they don't have Netflix, though.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I would think that would be the way that it's always been done, and it would certainly not surprise me if it was done that way with some of this stuff, especially if you are in, you know, third place. Like, why not sell to Netflix if Netflix wants to buy it? But otherwise, like, you know, I don't know. Maybe they want to keep it. It's like, listen, if you want it, there's a very easy place to get it. You know, just come on over to Xbox/PlayStationville, and we'll show you all the delightful things.
Although you don't have to buy a particular piece of hardware to watch Netflix. You do have to buy a particular piece of hardware to watch the Sony and Xbox stuff.
Yep.
All right. Front lines then?
Front lines!
Front lines!
Hey man, AT&T has said that if it gets to buy DirecTV, then golly, it'll be great because it'll help create a strong national competitor that can bundle broadband and video in ways that it could not without the transaction. Hold on. Basically they can make bundling easier is what they're saying. It also said there might be, quote, upward pressure on standalone services. Do we want more bundling? It sounds to me like essentially what they're saying is, hey man, make sure to make this happen because we can make it even easier for people to keep cable and to not buy individual services.
Yeah, no, that's what AT&T wants to do here is kill cord cutting. They're like, what we'll do is we'll make it more expensive to just have the internet. It'll be a lot cheaper if you let us do this merger for us to bundle things.
I think it's just smells like, hey, wow, the great satisfaction of AT&T and DirecTV finally stapled together.
Yeah.
Comcast is going to test a distribution platform through its X1 cable set-top boxes. It'll allow content creators to upload videos viewable on a dedicated app. Senior Vice President of Video Matt Strauss said the focus will not be on user-generated video, but will target audiences that see high value in certain types of niche content. It is kind of like the Sony and Xbox model, right, Justin?
Explain. Wait, what the hell is this again? I don't even know.
Comcast wants to have a channel of a video that creators can upload to with their permission.
Okay.
So basically, for like independent filmmakers, this is basically we're looking at public access television on cable.
Except not public access because Comcast will gatekeep and try to put really high quality stuff.
Yeah, but that's the way public access television was as well.
So where will you be able to watch it? It'll just be like through Comcast
on the X1
like,
cable
website,
set-top box.
Oh. All right.
With your Comcast subscription.
I'd really love to pour my energy into working for Comcast. Hooray!
That says it all. Sonic the Hedgehog will become a movie thanks to Sony 22 Jump Street producer Neil Moritz and Marza Animation Planet. The Hollywood Reporter says we'll see the return of Sonic's longtime antagonist, Dr. Eggman, nay Robotnik. Anybody want to see Sonic on the big screen? I am totally ambivalent about this, and I think that it's a bit of an aged property that has some late 90s stink on it now.
Oh my God, Brian. If just for all the Dr. Robotnik jokes I forced you and Veronica Belmont to read when I was writing Game On. I love Sonic. I love Dr. Robotnik. I've always wondered whether or not he has diabetes and how smelly his little pod gets as he floats around. I would like to write the Sonic movie, is what I'm trying to say. Please let me write the Sonic movie.
Okay, put that way, I will want to see the Sonic movie, but only if written by Justin Robert Young.
Also watch it.
Netflix will release 26 episodes of a revival of the 1990s children's show, The Magic School Bus. It'll be called The Magic School Bus 360, beginning in 2016. Old episodes currently rank as one of the most popular educational programs in Netflix's catalog. Justin, does Netflix risk becoming the reboot factory, though? I mean, they're doing Arrested Development. They're rebooting other children's franchises.
Man, listen, and this is another one like Dr. Robotnik. I've always wondered whether or not Miss Frizzle is a lesbian, and it's something that I really feel should be explored in this Magic School Bus 360 series. I mean, listen, it's kids television. Brian, how much of the stuff that you show your kids is a revival of something that you watched?
Yes, no, of course. In fact, actually, I had never watched The Magic School Bus because I was in high school by the time it came on. The kids discovered it on Netflix. I've experienced a month of this crap, and that teacher, freaking insane, irresponsible. Don't let your children go anywhere with that chick. That's Not Funny discovered a new Slingbox model called the M1 that looks like a typical video streaming box, but has a Wi-Fi connection built in. Could we be looking at a cheaper Slingbox with Roku-like functionality? I'll tell you what, you want to make me buy the Slingbox? Make it just a little bit easier, because I actually took over the Slingbox HD that I had, and number one, I took it to my parents' place because I wanted to watch Andrew Main's show from their place. And I'm like, no, I'll hook it up and I'll be able to watch on this. I couldn't quite explain to my parents what the Slingbox did. There were a few too many wires and it never actually got set up. If they could make it easier, just bloop, bloop, plug in Wi-Fi, then I think we'd have a winner.
Justin, what do you think?
Dude, I'm a huge Slingbox fan. I have loved Slingbox since the first time I bought one 6 years ago. And I have not hooked up my Slingbox with like this latest move because exactly what Brian says. It is just something that I have not gotten around to doing. It has been just a little bit too hard. And I would love to see their product is just been so amazing. Like it was the first time that I had a device that related to my television that I felt was magic, that just untethered everything for wherever I wanted to go. I bought the $30 Slingbox app for my iPhone. I would love for them to get back into the game in a major way, and I feel like they need a big hardware reboot to do it. Hopefully, this is it.
I don't know what else they could do to make it easier. The Slingbox 500 requires you to use the component cables instead of the HDMI because of some DRM issues, and that's a tough one for them to fix. But if they did have a box that just looked simpler and had all those Roku-like functionality, I think that could be pretty killer. Say like, hey, this thing does Netflix, Hulu, and all this other stuff, and slings your television to your app. I was using Slingbox earlier today to watch the World Cup in the airport.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I couldn't drape the cord across the hallway.
Anime distributor Crunchyroll acquired video startup Redux. Redux does video discovery and will help Crunchyroll to improve discovery on its apps. I guess what's interesting about this is the idea that companies that have big catalogs now need to find experts in helping their audience discover what's in the catalog, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is a big problem for Netflix, too.
Well, and I think that this is going to be a bigger trend, not just for content discovery for users, but also for, like, users going back through their own photos. I'm waiting for algorithms to just go through my own photo rolls and say, hey, we think this is the best 20% of the photos you've taken based on focus and contrast and focus.
Dude. it is unnerving sometimes with like Netflix that it is imperfect, but sometimes like it hits those notes where it's like uncomfortable how much it pegs your personal taste. Like you like British comedies where the main character says "shut up" over 7 times in an episode.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I guess I do. And I'll tell you what, it becomes unnerving when RedTube adds it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Agreed.
We are out of time for that. Let us move on to check in on the movie draft.
Yeah.
Almost rhymed. How to Train Your Dragon 2, 50 million. Is that disappointing?
I don't honestly know. It
is.
I mean, it is certainly for. I'm betting if you asked Padre SJ, he would say yes.
Well, let me take you guys back to, if not the first draft we ever did, then it was the second one, but it was the year that Hangover 2 came out the same weekend as Kung Fu Panda 2. Kung Fu Panda 2, you look to build on a tremendously well-loved and franchise for DreamWorks. They came out against a hard R comedy, and they wound up blaming how well Hangover 2 did, which to that point was the highest grossing R-rated comedy of all time, with the underperformance of Kung Fu Panda. We had the exact same thing happen with, it looks like 22 Jump Street will break Hangover 2's record for the highest grossing hard R comedy of all time. And DreamWorks yet again went toe-to-toe with a big pivotal sequel that should have made $1 jillion. And we'll see how well it holds over, because there's not a lot of other big kiddie entertainment that has yet to come out. But it didn't get that first week pop that DreamWorks or anybody who owned it in the movie drafts were really hoping. And you have to wonder if just that is not a conflict that will pass by each other in the night anymore, that people who would go see 22 Jump Street would have otherwise seen How to Train Your Dragon 2 if they had not come out in the same weekend.
I mean, I don't know how much of that there is, though. It's like this has been a really weird, very disappointing summer in general. Like even the movies that have done well have seen 60% drop-offs on average going from their opening weekend to the next. It would kill me if How to Train Your Dragon 2 had the same thing, because it was a really good movie, man. It was, and I'll talk more about it, but when we come to what's on our radar. But man, was it a fine sequel. If you liked How to Train Your Dragon, I would say that this one's probably even better.
Well, but I mean, I guess the point is
people say it was too dark and they didn't want to take their kids to it.
Well, okay. I would tell those people that they're dumb, but I definitely cried 4 to 5 times during this movie. So, but then again, I cried at even the happy parts. I'm like, oh my God, they love each other. It's so beautiful.
But I guess the point is necessarily like that the movie's good or bad, because by all accounts, both of these movies are good. 22 Jump Street's got a great Rotten Tomatoes rating. How to Train Your Dragon has a great Rotten Tomatoes rating, and the users seem to be echoing that sentiment. The question is that, like, you would not think that people who would go to see 22 Jump Street would have otherwise went to see How to Train Your Dragon. But it happened with Kung Fu Panda and Hangover 2. And it seems to be happening again now. Like, I think we are just in a weird culture homogenization where,
I guess I'm just a little bit super bummed that the quality of the movie doesn't seem to tie into how much money it makes. Like, by all accounts, Edge of Tomorrow was very, very good, and I still want to see it while it's in the theater. I'm told there was one review that called it the best video game movie ever that doesn't happen to be built on a video game. And How to Train Your Dragon 2 was amazing, and it didn't do well. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, it did well, and it will probably make $150 million, which is not anything to spit on, but it did not do the gangbusters that I think DreamWorks was expecting.
I expected this to be 80 out of the gate, minimal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a little bit under. And, of course, next week, Night Attack, you guys get Think Like a Man 2, which you only paid $15 for. So we're kind of just in a holding pattern as you guys finally start to get some movies in your belts.
Make or break it, man. It's all Transformers Age of Extinction. We'll either live or die on that movie. And to be honest, this is a weird-ass draft, man. I'll be surprised if the winner takes home more than $600 million.
Yeah, you may be right about that.
I think the winner will get over. I mean, like, that's crazy, though, because we have never had a winner that's been less than the previous winner. There's no doubt that'll happen this year because you'd have to get over $1 billion, and I don't think any of us have a pathway to over.
No, I
$1 billion
don't think
at
we've
this
ever
point.
had a winner that made less than 800 million. And
Yeah.
we're looking like, I don't think it's an outrageous estimate to say that the winner is going to be under 700 million for sure. It'll be, I will predict, and I don't know that I'll offer a stake. I'll offer you a baguette on this one. That the winner of the draft this year will be the lowest grossing winner in the history of the draft.
Oh, I don't think that there's any question about that. I think that, this is just, and I don't know whether or not, I mean, I think it's a lower grossing summer in general, but also I think we just wound up splitting up these movies really well. I think like the drafting was fairly smart in general, and everybody, nobody got a big thing. And really, at this
that would
point,
be
for me and you,
interesting.
Bri, we're just hoping that ace in the hole comes through in a big bad way, man. Like,
Yeah.
Your best bet is Wahlberg. Wahlberg makes a lot of people who would never consider go see a Transformers movie decide maybe they'll go see the
I'll
Transformers.
tell you what, there was like, I saw a trailer for it where he's getting into an argument, like a Transformers Holocaust is happening in the middle of Chicago or something. And some guy gets into a fender bender with him and asks him for his insurance. And Mark Wahlberg, just like almost as if it's a parody of Mark Wahlberg in a Transformers movie. It's just like, what do you mean? There's Transformers over there. Honey, get my alien gun. That's like the line. I'm not joking. Like his line is, honey, get my alien gun. And then he gets handed an alien gun. Like,
They also are doing a good job. Like, you'll notice that most of the marketing portrays it as if it's the beginning of a discovery of the Transformers for the first time. You've got this old semi to be restored, and oh my God, it's a Transformer.
it's funny because like he says that, right?
Yeah.
He's like, honey,
I think we got a Transformer
I found a
over here."
Transformer.
So, but again, this is smart marketing in that it divorces itself from the previous series and it makes it seem like it's its own standalone thing. If you essentially they're allowing themselves to be a blank canvas onto which you could project, well, maybe this time they'll do it right. They got a new guy and a new discovery.
But in general, people like to watch Transformers movies. And they like to watch Transformers movies when Shia LaBeouf was the main character.
But they like to watch
it
them
when
a little
Megan
less
Fox's
every
butt was in
time.
it.
Yeah.
What?
They like to watch them a little less every time.
Well, no. The second movie made more than the first.
All right. So most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about quality versus dollars, and in dollars, sequels tend to do better than the original.
Yeah, Transformers the first, 319, Transformers the second, 400 million, and Dark of the Moon, 352. So it was a $50 million fall off from the second to the third.
I'll tell you what, Justin.
But
Can you imagine?
That's with Shia LaBeouf and random.
So, in fact,
Eastern
there's no
European
pattern.
model.
Yeah. Can you imagine though, like if this one made 400 million, we would go instantly from last place to first place and possibly hold on to it through the rest of the game?
I mean, we need our boy, and this is the only time that we have a movie in which we have a friend of ours who is a part of it, at least until a couple summers with Brian's friends. But we have personal friends in Think Like a Man with Romany Malco. We need our boy Romany to come in. We need everybody. Listen, certain demographics are of other demographics having all the main characters.
All right.
Come
This is
on
not
out to the
this is
movies.
not cheering section for the Night Attack
Save it for Night Attack,
movie
boy.
draft. This is not propaganda time. Let's
I'm
move
just
on to on
saying.
screen.
All right, on
enough
screen.
of Whitey running around getting their way.
So Brian,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about Orange is the New Black a little bit in spoiler in time, and obviously we'll talk about Game of Thrones most of spoiler in time. But anything more to add on either of those or How to Train Your Dragon 2?
Yeah, if you're not going to listen to the full review on Orange is the New Black, I only watched one episode. I am hesitant to move forward, but I'm told that it gets good. But whatever, I'll go ahead and do it. I did watch the E3 coverage. I thought that Sony's presentation really, what a reverse. I mean, I don't know, like Sony just continues to own it. They really have learned the lessons from Xbox in the past. Went and saw How to Train Your Dragon 2 with two of my girls, and it's extraordinary. It's so good. You guys both saw the first movie, right?
Nope.
I didn't.
Holy shoot! Really? You guys,
I think
you
I've
guys
seen
have
parts
no
of it
idea.
on HBO here and there.
You have 300% more children than me.
No,
and
no, no, no,
Tom.
no, no, no. This is not about children. I mean, we're talking about quality of.
No,
good
man, I saw
storytelling.
Frozen. I just never got around to seeing How to Train Your Dragon.
Dude,
I
Frozen
apologize.
is a stupid turd on the highway compared to How to Train Your Dragon.
Well, I wasn't
It's
comparing
so
them. I was
good.
saying I
Brian,
have gone to see
let it go.
movies.
all right. So let me say a couple of things. First of all, normally I'd be all like, you got to watch How to Train Your Dragon is very good. But having seen How to Train Your Dragon 2, it is extraordinary in that what they do is How to Train Your Dragon 1 takes place, I don't know, you got a bunch of teenagers. They're all clearly between 13 and 16 years old. Rather than trying to, because it's animation, you could get away with doing the same things again. The next movie takes place 5 years later, and they're young adults. They're now in their 20s, and they have very different problems, and they have a very different social dynamic. They have a different dynamic with spoiler alert, dragons. I loved it. I loved everything about it. It was super, super good. And I think that based on the strength of the second one, I would have to imagine we're almost certainly going to, and this is part of why I wanted to make money, I would imagine that we're almost certainly going to see a third movie, and they can literally go any number of surprising directions with it. I can't encourage you enough, if you saw the first one, to go see the second. If you haven't seen the first one, go see the first one.
I have read it referred to as a trilogy. So I believe
I hope
DreamWorks
so.
is thinking of it as a trilogy.
I hope so. Man, I could get in all kinds of spoiler territory here, but as you guys are virgin to this, I'm going to just encourage you to watch it. I think one of the things you could watch for, and this is not a spoiler, is the way they animate the dragons is so good, so genius, because they are taking cues from, at times, you could tell that they are taking inspiration from cats. Other times they're taking inspiration for dogs. There's one dragon where I was like, holy crap! They clearly based this dragon on an owl, and they added all these elements to it. It's so creative and so very, very well done. And the only other thing I've watched is, and I mentioned this on the Weird Things podcast earlier today, Thunderfoot has a YouTube channel. That's THUNDERF 00T. So spell Thunderfoot with 2 zeros. Apparently I'm on his channel twice because he does a series of skeptic videos and has recently been kind of taking to task the wide-eyed optimistic view of the Solar Freakin' Roadways guys, to the tune where now they have included his criticisms in their FAQ, which of course only cues them up to make another more cogent argument for why it's a stupid idea. There's a reason we don't put solar panels underneath cars. He uses my face. He uses a clip from the Nat Geo thing that I did to make a couple of points about what a bad idea using tempered glass for a roadway is.
Justin, what have you been watching?
Listen, I watched all the stuff you guys watch. Game of Thrones, obviously, we talk a lot about in spoiler in time. I'm 3 episodes deep on Orange is the New Black. I'm just going to say this. We were talking earlier about the PlayStation TV, the idea that for somebody who would be into classic games, you could just have an easy entry into enjoying some of the stuff that you've enjoyed in the past. And the first thing that I thought of when we were talking about that was the experience that I had with the WWE Network. I was into wrestling when I was a kid in high school, kind of dropped out of it when I was, went on to college and stuff like that. And the idea of having a low entry, a low barrier into me kind of not only revisiting the stuff in the past, but also enjoying the stuff that they have now was a bargain too good for me to take up. And it has resulted in me very much enjoying this product. If you have ever been into wrestling, I think it is a universal praise for the back catalog at the very least, to just watch all these old pay-per-views, enjoy the art of pro wrestling as it has evolved, but also to keep in contact. There's a lot of really, really good original stuff. They have their minor leagues is the NXT show. It is a once a week film down in Florida at the Full Sail University. and it's excellent. It is really, really good. So if you like pro wrestling like I do, the WWE Network has just been such a delightful, fun purchase for me, and I hope that other people like it.
The only thing I'm going to add is, because I've mentioned pretty much everything I've watched in other parts of the show, but I did just dive into Netflix the other night on a whim, using it the way it's not supposed to be used, as a, well, let's see if this thing I want to watch is there. And it was there. I watched the original MASH movie, the Altman film, with Elliot Gould and Robert Duvall. Rene Auberjonois plays Father Mulcahy in that.
Oh, wow.
And it was just really fun. I watched that movie over and over and over again in high school, so I still have big swaths of it memorized. And it was really fun to just be able to say, oh, I'm kind of in the mood to watch that again. Boom, there it is. And I watched it, which is really the service I want. And Netflix has moved away from being that kind of service. I really want that service to exist eventually.
I'll tell you what, though, when it's there, it's great. I had that experience with Wayne's World. I think I know every word of Wayne's World. I watched that that tape so much that my stepdad, which, by the way, happy Father's Day. We are recording this on Father's Day. He had to hide it from me and my brother because all we did was watch Wayne's World over and over and over again. And so I had that exact same experience with Wayne's World this week.
All right, let's see some dispatches from the front. What do they say?
Yeah, let's cease and dispatch.
Cease and dispatch. Ooh, maybe a new name. Although that kind of implies stop emailing us.
Yeah, stop talking and
I don't know if
dispatch.
that's what the
Hey, man, Joe writes us saying he loves the show. It makes a wish he had discovered our previous incarnation. He has a small request. He says he learned that we use the lower third on the video version to identify which movie we're spoilering, but he points out that he does, he skips over the Cosmos and the Shield, and so he doesn't want to, he doesn't watch those, so he wants to skip the spoilers, but he can't do it because he's an audio listener. We also got an email from Caleb saying, hey guys, it'd be great if you made use of podcast chapters in the shows. In the main show to help with those faux spoilers about Star Wars that people whine about. And in Spoiler in Time, it would help people to listen and just skip the sections that they're not caught up with yet. I think both of these are great ideas. I don't know anything about what it takes to put podcast chapters in things.
It's not terribly hard if you go through certain programs, but it is an extra step. I always feel like, and we've seen this a lot with Night Attack, is like a lot of this kind of specialty stuff. I would very much recommend that that folks who are into that kind of stuff just find somebody amongst you who wants to go ahead and either provide chapter markers of like when you want to skip to stuff, because a lot of that kind of happens naturally the more that you pool around with other fans of the show if you are really, really into it.
And not all podcast players will support chapters either.
Yeah.
That's I always think chapters are a great idea. I agree with what Justin's saying 100%. And the fact that they're non-standard always makes me shy of wanting to use them, because then you're saying, well, part of my audience gets this great feature, and you really haven't solved the problem because a large part of your audience also doesn't have that same feature.
Yeah.
Right. We got Jason.
I'm absolving them of being lazy and not doing it, is what I'm trying to say. I have great sympathy as a fellow content creator that I don't think that you guys should be responsible for doing that. I don't think
Jason in Fort Myers, Florida says, as I'm getting ready for the 24-hour Le Mans, trying to find a place to stream it a week or so before the race, I'm completely delighted to find that the good people at Le Mans are not only streaming the entire race, but also Chromecastable directly from their website. Nicely done. He would like to applaud the Le Mans group for their forward thinking of live sports on the internet.
You know what? I'll also give kudos, because when we did Night Attack 2 nights ago, we almost lost our guest because Mike TV is such a fan of the LA Kings that he wanted to watch them have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And as he was there in studio while we were doing the show, and in fact, it's a few minutes of the show, you'll hear us be distracted by it, I was able to just go to NBCsports.com, and there it was, just super quick, just the live stream of the actual game in progress.
Nice.
Finally, we got a big bunch of comments from Alan all about the PS4 Sony E3 press announcement. He says, I was noticing they were nudging people in the same direction although in a much more subtle way than Microsoft. Tom has always been saying that both console manufacturers want these things in the long term, and I think that's right. In particular, basically he's saying that they both want the same thing, but that whereas Microsoft offended people last year by focusing on it, PlayStation's being a little more subtle. He says, in particular, the PlayStation feature that lets your friends play in your multiplayer game, even if they don't own it, seems an awful lot like Microsoft's proposed library sharing feature. He goes on to say that PlayStation TV is digital only without fanfare, mainly because it's only a $100 box, but it plays most Vita games. Not sure what most means, but based on the reviews, Vita games seem to be much closer to full console games than phone games, and you could use your PS3 controller on there as well. It's interesting how this works out. To me, it seems a lot like Sony learning from its PS3 launch. I remember when the PS3 launched, Sony was pushing it as an entertainment center. And he, as an aside, he says, remember the PlayStation X? Xbox was pushing games, especially Halo, of course. That, combined with an earlier release, gave the 360 a lead that PS3 could never catch up to. But this time around, the situation seems reversed. I think that's a really good point. I think it's a good observation. I think you're probably right, Alan.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, everybody, for writing in. Justin Robert Young, thanks for hanging around with us today, man.
Oh, man, it is a pleasure, cue it up on a Sunday night. We had a great Game of Thrones discussion, and
great post-game show.
It's always great to hang out with the two of you.
Yeah. Let us know where we can find more Justin Robert Young.
Well, listen, if you want to hear me talk to Brian, you can go to Night Attack. If you want to hear me talk to Tom, you can download FSL tonight. Actually, we got a live episode coming up on Saturday. That'll be a call-in show for FSL tonight. And it just always delights me, the fantastic reaction that we've had from the fan base. I will say that I have gotten never in my semi-crappy internet celebrity life that I have lived over the last 4 years have I gotten more negative attention and negative feedback than my opinions about the Ponyville Phillies on FSL this season. I have been hugely critical of them, and I have been excoriated by their fan base. And I say, bring it on, because they deserve it. The Phillies are an embarrassment.
Trolling is magic for Justin Robert Young. That is it. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Brushwood, anything else to add before we go?
No, dude. Love you guys. Fantastic episode. Thanks for sticking around. If we sound a little bit loopy, it's because it's 1 in the freaking morning, and we don't normally record at this time. So all apologies to you guys. We'll be back in force next week, and thanks for being around. Keep killing
Cordkillers@gmail.com, cordkillers.com. Goodbye.
Wow.